I'm Nora, 29, and this is the story of how my graduation day turned into a national spectacle, all thanks to my sister's perfectly timed gender reveal. For as long as I could remember, my life had been a series of quiet sacrifices and deferred dreams. Growing up, my younger sister, Leah, had always been the dazzling one, the effortlessly charming prodigy who effortlessly garnered all the attention. She was 5 years my junior, a gap that often felt like a chasm, separating us not just in age but in the very fabric of our parents' expectations. Lee floated through life with an innate grace, a natural magnetism that drew people to her, while I, Nora, was the sensible, studious one. The diligent elder sister who always did her part, always took responsibility, always faded a little into the background. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. From early childhood, this dynamic was implicitly understood. I remember being 6 years old, meticulously building a complex Lego castle, a towering structure of interlocking bricks and intricate details. I presented it to my father, my small heart swelling with pride, eager for his approval. He glanced at it, offered a brief, distracted smile, and said, "That's very neat, Nora. Good job." Minutes later, Leah, then just a year old, toddled into the living room, clutching a brightly colored squishy ball. She dropped it, giggled, and my mother immediately scooped her up, exclaiming, "Oh, our little athlete. So strong, so playful." The contrast was stark, even to my young mind. My quiet, intricate effort was met with a polite nod, Lee's effortless charm, with effusive adoration. As we grew, these subtle differences solidified into deeply ingrained patterns. Lee, with her bright, infectious laughter and her uncanny ability to charm adults, was always the star of family gatherings. She had a way of captivating attention, a natural effervescence that seemed to draw all light towards her. She was often complimented on her appearance, her quick wit, her ability to make friends effortlessly. My parents would beam, their faces radiating pride as Leah recounted anecdotes from school or performed a spontaneous dance routine. I would often sit quietly nearby, observing, a book usually clutched in my hands, a silent observer in my own family's narrative. My parents, though loving, often seemed to relate to me through a lens of expectation, rather than a joyful embrace of my own distinct personality. They saw me as reliable, responsible, and capable, but rarely celebrated my individuality with the same fervor they reserved for Lee. Leah's elementary school years were marked by a string of achievements that seemed to come with minimal effort. She was a natural at sports, effortlessly gliding across the soccer field or tumbling gracefully in gymnastics. She excelled in school plays, her lines delivered with a natural flair that belied her age. My parents were her most ardent cheerleaders, attending every game, every recital, their camera flashing, their cheers the loudest in the stands. My own academic successes, though consistent and strong, were often met with a quiet nod, an expectation that I would, of course, do well. If Lee brought home a B, it was often framed as, "A strong effort, she's so well-rounded." If I brought home an A, it was simply, "Good work, Nora, keep it up." The financial disparity in their investment in our futures was also glaring, though I didn't fully comprehend its implications until I was older. When Lee expressed an interest in ballet, she was immediately enrolled in the most prestigious local dance academy, complete with expensive tutus and private lessons. When I cautiously mentioned an interest in photography, I was told, "Maybe you can save up for a camera, Nora. It's a nice hobby." It wasn't malice, never that, but a subtle, ingrained prioritization of Leah's perceived talents and potential. My parents, immigrants who had worked tirelessly to build a life in a new country, poured their hopes and dreams into Leah, seeing her as the embodiment of success, the dazzling proof of their sacrifices. I, on the other hand, was simply expected to achieve, to be self-sufficient, to make them proud through quiet perseverance. Leah's high school years were a whirlwind of popularity, cheerleading, and academic accolades that seemed to arrive effortlessly. She was voted prom queen, student council president, and captain of the cheerleading squad. Her social calendar was packed, her popularity undeniable. My parents reveled in her success, their faces beaming with undisguised pride at every school event. They celebrated her college acceptance into a respectable state university with a grand party, inviting our entire extended family, boasting about her brilliant future. They even helped her secure a generous scholarship, making sure her path was smooth and financially unburdened. My own path to a degree was considerably less glamorous. After high school, I had faced the harsh realities of our family's financial situation. College, for me, wasn't a given. It was a luxury we couldn't afford, not without significant sacrifice. Our parents had already stretched their resources for Lee's undergraduate degree, and while they had always spoken vaguely of higher education as a possibility for me, the practical support simply wasn't there. So, I did what I always did. I found a way. I took on 2 jobs, one as a barista in a bustling coffee shop from dawn until noon, my hands constantly sticky with syrup, the aroma of espresso clinging to my clothes. Other was as a night clerk at a 24-hour convenience store, stacking shelves, mopping floors, and ringing up late-night customers who often seemed to exist in a different dimension. For 8 grueling years, my life became a relentless cycle of work, study, and a desperate pursuit of a dream that often felt impossibly distant. My days blurred into weeks, then months, then years. I took night classes at the local community college, transferring credits to a public university whenever I could afford the tuition. Sleep became a luxury, often snatched in brief, restless intervals between shifts. My social life was a forgotten concept, replaced by textbooks and the endless hum of fluorescent lights in my tiny rented apartment. My textbooks were my constant companions, dog-eared and highlighted, crammed into stolen moments on bus rides, during my lunch breaks, or in the quiet solitude of my apartment late at night. There were countless moments of crushing exhaustion, of wanting to give up, of feeling the weight of the world on my tired shoulders. I remember one particular winter night, a relentless snowstorm howling outside, as I sat hunched over a complex statistics textbook at 2 a.m, my eyes burning with fatigue. A sudden wave of despair washed over me, a profound loneliness. Would this endless grind ever truly end? Would I ever truly escape this cycle? And but the thought of that piece of paper, that degree, the tangible proof of my perseverance, kept me going. It wasn't just a degree, it was my ticket to a better life, a promise I had made to myself years ago. It was my quiet rebellion against the narrative that had been written for me, a testament to my own strength and determination. My parents, though aware of my arduous journey, seemed to view it with a detached appreciation, as if it were simply a necessary inconvenience, a less exciting alternative to Lee's seemingly effortless ascent. They would occasionally ask, "How are classes going, Nora?" But their interest felt perfunctory, a polite inquiry rather than genuine curiosity. They never offered financial help, which I never asked for, understanding their resources were already stretched thin, primarily funneled towards Lee's latest venture or her fledgling family, and never suggested coming to visit me on campus, never offered to bring me a home-cooked meal when I was buried under textbooks. My struggles were my own, and I had long since learned to shoulder them in silence, drawing strength from my own quiet resilience. There was a particular moment, about 3 years into my degree, when I proudly told my mother I had finally saved enough to pay for my next semester's tuition in full without needing a student loan. Her response was, "Oh, that's nice, dear. Leah just got a promotion at her new marketing job. Isn't that wonderful?" The casual pivot, the immediate shift in focus, was a familiar sting, a quiet reminder of my place. The day I finally received confirmation that I had completed all my degree requirements, that the 8-year odyssey was officially over, was a moment of profound, quiet triumph. I didn't shout from the rooftops or throw a party. I simply sat alone in my small apartment, a single tear of exhaustion and relief tracing a path down my cheek, clutching the email from the university registrar. I had done it. Against all odds, through sheer grit and unwavering determination, I had earned my Bachelor of Arts in Communications, specializing in public relations. It wasn't a glamorous degree, but it was practical, versatile, and it was mine. Every word on that email, every credit listed, represented a late night, an early morning, a sacrifice made. I called my parents, my voice thick with emotion, trying to convey the enormity of the moment. Mom, Dad, I did it. I'm finally graduating, I announced, a breathless tremor in my voice, a surge of pure, unadulterated pride bubbling up. My mother's voice, though warm, held a familiar undercurrent of distraction. Oh, that's wonderful, dear. We're so proud of you. That's truly amazing, all that hard work. My father echoed her sentiments. They agreed to celebrate, to mark this significant milestone. We tentatively planned a small dinner at our favorite Indian restaurant, the Curry Pot, a place with a cozy ambiance and the aroma of spices that reminded me of my grandmother's cooking. It would be a quiet family affair, just the four of us, for the weekend of my graduation ceremony. It wouldn't be a grand party like Lee's, but it would be enough. It would be my day. I allowed myself a fragile moment of hope, a yearning for their undivided attention, just for once. Then, 2 weeks before my graduation, the bombshell dropped. My sister, Leah, called, her voice bubbling with an almost frantic excitement, practically vibrating through the phone line. Nora, you are not going to believe this. It's incredible. We're having a gender reveal party. For the baby. And guess what? We're doing it on the same day as your graduation. Isn't that perfect timing? Oh! She practically shrieked the last part, as if the universe had conspired to create this glorious coincidence just for her. My breath hitched. The air left my lungs in a silent whoosh. My mind struggled to process the casual cruelty of her announcement. Leah, I said, my voice strained, trying to keep the raw disbelief and the rising wave of hurt from seeping into my tone. That's my graduation day. Our family dinner is planned for that evening. Remember? Lee, oblivious to the tremor in my voice, continued as if I hadn't spoken, her monologue of joyous self-absorption unhindered. Oh, don't be silly, Nora. It's perfect. Everyone will already be in town. We can have it at Auntie's sprawling backyard. There's so much space. It's going to be huge. We're setting off colored smoke bombs, and there's a massive cake being custom-made, and a DJ playing all the latest hits. It's going to be epic. My friend Tara's cousin is a photographer, so we'll have amazing pictures for Instagram. Her excitement was so genuine, so overwhelming, but it felt like a tidal wave, washing away my fragile hopes, my quiet anticipation. The sheer scale of her event, juxtaposed with the modest dinner we had planned for my graduation, was a painful mockery. My parents, when I called them, echoed Leah's enthusiasm, their voices brimming with an almost childlike glee. Oh, Nora, isn't it wonderful? A gender reveal. So exciting. My mother's voice chirped, sounding genuinely thrilled. Lee is so creative with these ideas. We'll just move your dinner, dear. Leah's party will be so much fun. It's a big family event. Everyone will be there. Their tone implied that a party for their grandbaby somehow superseded my lifelong achievement, as if my graduation was merely a minor inconvenience on the family's social calendar. But, Mom, I pleaded, a desperate, raw edge to my voice, feeling a familiar sting of tears pricking at my eyes. This is my graduation, 8 years of hard work. This is supposed to be my celebration. This is the culmination of so much sacrifice. The words tumbled out, laced with a vulnerability I rarely allowed myself to show. My father chimed in, his tone soothing but firm, that familiar paternal voice that brooked no argument. Nora, don't be dramatic. It's just a dinner. We'll make it up to you. We'll celebrate properly later, just the four of us, you know. When things aren't so busy. This is about the baby. It's family. Everyone is coming to the gender reveal. It would be a shame for us not to be there for Leah on such a special day. The implication was clear. A new baby, a grand, splashy event, trumped my quiet, hard-won achievement. My years of sacrifice, my solitary journey, were suddenly, effortlessly, relegated to the background, overshadowed by a plume of colored smoke and a custom-made cake. The familiar ache of being second best, of being overlooked, settled deep in my chest, more painful than ever before. This wasn't just a scheduling conflict, it was a profound invalidation of my entire struggle, of my very existence within the family narrative. My heart, which had been brimming with pride, now felt like a shriveled, forgotten thing, tossed aside for something brighter, louder, and more attention-grabbing. I hung up the phone, the silence of my apartment suddenly deafening, amplifying the chaotic symphony of my racing thoughts. Tears, hot and bitter, streamed down my face, blurring the edges of my small, familiar living room. 8 years. 2 grueling jobs. Countless sleepless nights fueled by cheap coffee and stubborn determination. All to be brushed aside, deemed less important than a party, a fleeting spectacle of pink or blue smoke. The injustice of it, the sheer brazen disregard for my feelings, for my achievement, was a physical weight, pressing down on me, threatening to suffocate me. My lungs felt tight, my chest heavy. I paced my small apartment, the anger building within me, a furious hum beneath the surface of my raw hurt. But then, as the initial wave of bitter tears subsided, a different emotion began to stir within me, a quiet, simmering anger, colder and more potent than any despair. A steel rod of determination born from years of being underestimated, of being dismissed, began to solidify in my core. This wasn't just about the gender reveal. It was about every slight, every overlooked achievement, every time I had been told to be a big girl while Leah basked in the limelight. This time, I wouldn't be quietly resentful. I wouldn't accept the platitude of, "We'll make it up to you." I wouldn't fade into the background. They wanted to make news? Fine. I would make headlines. And I wouldn't need colored smoke bombs or a DJ to do it. My quiet, determined journey had led me here, to this moment of profound betrayal. It was time to write my own story, and this time, I would be the undeniable main character, the one who stole the spotlight, not by force, but by the sheer, undeniable weight of her own truth. The days leading up to graduation were a blur of numb preparation, punctuated by sharp pangs of indignation and a growing sense of quiet resolve. My initial devastation slowly solidified into a cold, clear determination. My parents' casual dismissal of my monumental achievement for Leah's flamboyant gender reveal party felt like a deliberate act of erasure, a final, definitive declaration of where I stood in the family hierarchy. "We'll make it up to you," my mother had promised, her voice laced with that familiar, saccharine sweetness that often masked a profound lack of understanding. The phrase echoed in my mind, a hollow, empty promise that had been made countless times throughout my life, always followed by nothing. This time, I knew it would be different. This time, I would make my own recompense. I intentionally avoided my family in the days before the ceremony. My phone, usually a silent companion in my otherwise solitary life, began to buzz with an almost incessant flurry of text messages from Leah, filled with breathless updates and brightly filtered photos. There were pictures of enormous pink and blue balloons, meticulously crafted cake designs, and cheerful updates about the party arrangements, including a specially commissioned banner that read, "Boy or girl, our world will dash way." Twirl! Each message was a tiny, self-inflicted wound, a reminder of the chasm between our realities, a testament to her oblivious self-absorption. My parents, meanwhile, called with perfunctory inquiries about the logistics of my cap and gown pickup, their voices preoccupied, their minds clearly elsewhere, consumed by the grand spectacle Leah was planning. They seemed utterly oblivious to the depth of my hurt, absorbed in the whirlwind of Leah's impending celebration, their focus so entirely consumed by her that they couldn't even perceive my silent anguish. I allowed myself a grim, almost ironic smile. Their tunnel vision, their unwavering focus on Leah, would be their undoing, not through any direct malice from me, but through the sheer force of circumstance. The morning of my graduation dawned bright and clear, a crisp spring day that felt almost mockingly cheerful, sunlight streaming through my apartment window as if to celebrate a moment I was meant to cherish. I woke early, the familiar knot of anxiety and anticipation twisting in my stomach, but this time, it was laced with a thrilling undercurrent of defiance. I dressed meticulously in my cap and gown. the heavy, dark fabric feeling strangely empowering. A tangible symbol of 8 years of relentless struggle, of countless sacrifices made in pursuit of this single piece of paper. I looked at myself in the full-length mirror, a 29-year-old woman with tired but determined eyes, and saw not the overlooked daughter, the quiet sister, but a survivor, a conqueror of her own impossible mountain. This was my day, and I would seize it, whether my family was present or not. My appearance, though simple, radiated a quiet strength, a dignity earned through perseverance. I made my way to the university auditorium, the bustling campus, a flurry of proud families, excited graduates, and the palpable energy of achievement. The air hummed with anticipation, the buzz of countless conversations, laughter, and the distant strains of a brass band rehearsing a commencement march. I spotted my few friends from night classes, fellow travelers on the arduous journey of adult education, and we exchanged knowing smiles and quiet congratulations. Oh. There was Marcus, a single father of 2 who had worked full-time to support his family while earning his engineering degree, his eyes now tired but triumphant. And Sarah, a nurse who had navigated a demanding hospital schedule to complete her nursing degree, her always present smile now even brighter. We were the non-traditional students, the ones who had juggled jobs, families, and responsibilities, who had fought for every credit, every grade. There was a unique camaraderie among us, a shared understanding of the grit it took to reach this moment, a quiet solidarity in our collective accomplishment. As we lined up in the sprawling gymnasium, adjusting our caps and straightening our robes, a buzz of nervous excitement rippled through the rows, a shared sense of impending triumph. My parents, as expected, were nowhere in sight. Oh. I scanned the rows of faces, hoping against hope for a glimpse of them, a last-minute change of heart, but their absence was a stark, undeniable fact. The familiar pang of disappointment, a dull throb in my chest, flared briefly, then receded, replaced with a cold, quiet resolve. Their absence was a statement, yes, but so was my presence. My determination to walk across that stage, to claim my degree, to finally close this demanding chapter of my life, was unshakable. I was doing this for me, for the younger Nora who had dreamed of this day, for the countless hours of sacrifice, for every single tear shed in exhaustion. This was my personal victory, and no one's absence could diminish its profound significance. As the ceremony began, a sense of quiet pride settled over me. The dean's welcoming remarks, her voice resonating through the vast auditorium, spoke of perseverance, dedication, and the power of education. The speeches from various faculty members, the rhythmic procession of names being called, each one a testament to hard work and unwavering commitment. I sat in my assigned seat, listening, absorbing the atmosphere, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment wash over me. A collective energy of achievement was almost palpable, a wave of pride radiating from every corner of the room. This was real. This was mine. Every moment, every word spoken from the stage was a validation of my long, arduous journey. Then, the moment arrived. The dean, a distinguished woman with a kind smile and wise eyes, stepped back to the podium after a brief musical interlude. Her voice, calm and authoritative, resonated through the auditorium. "And now," she announced, her gaze sweeping across the rows of graduates, her voice carrying a special gravitas. "We have a special presentation. As part of our university's enduring commitment to supporting non-traditional students who embody exceptional dedication and overcome significant obstacles, we are incredibly proud to announce the inaugural recipient of the Pathfinder Scholarship. This scholarship provides a full tuition waiver for our master's program, offering an unparalleled opportunity for continued academic excellence." A ripple of excited murmuring spread through the vast audience. A full scholarship? For a master's degree? That was a life-changing opportunity, a profound acknowledgement of true merit. My heart gave a little flutter, a tiny, hopeful spark igniting in my chest. I dismissed it immediately, telling myself it was a long shot, a prestigious award reserved for truly extraordinary individuals, not for someone like me, who had always toiled in obscurity. This individual, the dean continued, her gaze sweeping across the rows of graduates, a slight smile playing on her lips, has demonstrated unwavering commitment, extraordinary resilience, and an unyielding pursuit of knowledge, all while balancing two demanding jobs and navigating significant personal challenges with quiet dignity. They represent the very best of what it means to be a graduate of this institution, a true testament to the transformative power of education. It is our distinct honor to recognize Nora Patel. My name. The sound of it, amplified through the loudspeakers, echoed through the vast auditorium, clear and resonant, an almost alien sound in my own ears. My breath hitched. For a moment, the world seemed to spin, colors blurring, sounds fading into a distant hum. I felt a collective gasp from the audience, followed by a surge of applause, a rising wave of genuine appreciation. My friends beside me, Marcus and Sarah, nudged me, their faces beaming with surprised joy, urging me to rise. "Nora, that's you!" Marcus whispered, his voice hoarse with excitement. I rose on shaky legs, my mind reeling, a dizzying cocktail of shock, disbelief, and overwhelming emotion swirling within me. My legs felt like jelly, but a strange sense of purpose propelled me forward. As I made my way to the stage, the applause grew, a roaring wave of genuine appreciation washing over me, engulfing me in a warmth I had rarely experienced. I felt hundreds of eyes on me, not with judgment, but with admiration. I reached the podium, my hands trembling slightly as the dean, her face radiating warmth and pride, handed me a symbolic oversized check and a beautifully framed certificate. The flash of cameras went off, bright bursts of light that felt surreal, almost dreamlike. There were reporters too, a small group of them, their cameras poised, their microphones extended, their eyes shining with the scent of a compelling story. This was unexpected. This was making the news. "Ms. Patel," the dean prompted gently, her voice kind, handing me the microphone. "Would you like to say a few words?" My mind raced, adrenaline coursing through my veins. A speech? On live television? I had no prepared remarks, no soaring platitudes or pre-written script. My hands clutched the microphone, still trembling slightly. But a voice, quiet and determined, stirred within me, rising from the depths of 8 years of sacrifice and countless moments of silent perseverance. This was my moment. This was my chance to tell my story, not through the lens of family drama, but through the lens of grit, of resilience, of genuine accomplishment, on my own terms. I took a deep breath, clutching the microphone, and looked out at the sea of faces, illuminated by the auditorium lights. The bright lights of the cameras felt surprisingly empowering, not intimidating, a spotlight I had never sought but now found myself embracing. "Good morning, everyone," I began, my voice clear, surprisingly steady, a quiet strength resonating in the respectful silence that had fallen over the auditorium. 8 years ago, I started this journey. 8 years of night classes, 8 years of working 2 demanding jobs, 8 years of dreaming of this very moment, of walking across this stage. I paused, letting the weight of those words sink in, allowing the raw truth of my journey to settle upon the audience. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, moments of crushing exhaustion, moments when I felt like giving up, when the finish line seemed impossibly far away. But I learned something profoundly important along the way. My gaze swept across the audience, finding the faces of my fellow non-traditional students, Marcus and Sarah, a silent acknowledgement of our shared struggles, our collective tenacity. I learned that true success isn't just about the grades on a transcript or the name of a prestigious university. It's about the grit, the sacrifice, the unwavering belief in yourself when no one else seems to be watching. It's about showing up, day after day, year after year, even when life throws every possible obstacle in your path, even when the odds feel stacked against you. A ripple of murmurs, of nods, of quiet agreement spread through the audience. I felt a surge of confidence, a quiet power flowing through me. This was my truth. unvarnished, unembellished, spoken from the heart. Many of us here today, especially those of us who started our academic journeys a little later in life, or who faced significant responsibilities outside of the classroom, know what it means to fight for our education. We know what it means to prioritize, to make agonizing sacrifices, to carry the weight of responsibilities that extend far beyond the classroom, from childcare to caring for elderly parents, from holding down multiple jobs to simply keeping food on the table. I looked directly into the camera lenses, into the unseen eyes of the broader world, feeling an inexplicable connection to countless unknown individuals who might be listening, who might be struggling just like I had. This degree, this scholarship isn't just a piece of paper or a financial award, it's a validation. A validation of every late night, every early morning, every challenge overcome, every ounce of effort expended. It's a testament to the fact that dedication, perseverance, and genuine hard work truly do pay off, sometimes in the most unexpected and profoundly rewarding ways. And it's a promise to myself and to anyone out there who feels overlooked, who feels unseen, that your efforts matter, that your dreams are worth fighting for, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many detours you have to take, no matter how many times you have to pick yourself up and start again. I smiled. A genuine, radiant smile that reached my eyes. A smile free from the constraints of expectation or comparison. Thank you. Thank you to my incredible professors who believed in me even when I doubted myself. Thank you to my friends, my fellow night class warriors, who shared this journey with me. And thank you to this amazing university for seeing the potential in a non-traditional student and for giving me this incredible opportunity to continue my journey. This isn't just my graduation day, it's a celebration of resilience, of hope, and of the unwavering power of education to transform lives. The applause that erupted was deafening, a roaring wave of genuine appreciation that reverberated through the hall. It was louder, more heartfelt than any I had heard all morning, a thunderous affirmation of my words. People rose to their feet, cheering, clapping. A standing ovation that felt like a collective embrace, a recognition of a shared human experience. The dean, tears in her eyes, hugged me fiercely. The reporters surged forward, their microphones thrust towards me, their faces alight with excitement, sensing the power of the story they had just witnessed. I had made the news. Not with colored smoke bombs or a meticulously planned party, but with 8 years of quiet grit, a well-earned degree, and a speech that resonated with a truth far more profound than any superficial celebration. My phone, which had been silent for so long, suddenly began to vibrate incessantly in my pocket, a frantic, insistent buzz that grew louder and more urgent with each passing minute, and knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, exactly who was trying to reach me. My parents. Lee. Still trying to explain why I wasn't in the gender reveal photos. But by then, I was already making headlines of my own, a story of quiet triumph that was echoing across the nation. The aftermath of my graduation ceremony was a dizzying whirlwind, a stark and bewildering contrast to the quiet, almost invisible life I had led for so long. The news crews, it turned out, had been there specifically to cover the scholarship announcement, a new initiative by the university to highlight exceptional non-traditional students and their inspiring journeys. My impromptu speech, raw and heartfelt, had clearly struck a chord, resonating far beyond the confines of the auditorium. Within mere hours, snippets of my speech, accompanied by candid footage of me on stage, were circulating rapidly online, picked up by local news channels, and then, with astonishing speed, going viral across various social media platforms. The internet, that vast, unpredictable beast, had embraced my story of perseverance, amplifying it to an audience I could never have imagined. My phone, which had been vibrating incessantly with a relentless urgency since I stepped off stage, finally died from the sheer volume of incoming calls and messages, its battery depleted by the sudden onslaught of cough. Attention. When I managed to find a charger and power it back on a few hours later, it exploded with a bewildering array of notifications. My parents had called dozens of times, leaving increasingly frantic and emotionally charged voicemails. A had sent a torrent of text messages, a bizarre mix of congratulations, thinly veiled confusion, and what sounded suspiciously like thinly veiled annoyance, almost as if my success was an inconvenience to her own. Narrative. My extended family, distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years, were suddenly reaching out, their messages effusive, almost apologetic, filled with belated praise. "Nora! Nora! We saw you on TV! What an amazing speech!" My mother's first voicemail shrieked, her voice breathless with an uncharacteristic excitement that sounded almost performative, lacking the genuine irony. Warmth I craved. "We are so incredibly proud. We just can't believe it. Why didn't you tell us about the scholarship? We would have been there. We would have rooted for you right in the front row." Her tone subtly shifted from feigned pride to a subtly aggrieved inflection, as if I had somehow wronged them by not providing advance notice of my unexpected moment in the national spotlight. As if my achievement existed solely to provide them with a public spectacle. Leah's texts were even more bewildering in their self-absorption. "OMG, Nora, congrats on the scholarship. Your speech was wow, so inspiring. But seriously, where were you? The gender reveal was absolutely amazing. Everyone was asking where you were. Mom and Dad kept making excuses, saying you were super busy with something else. It was so awkward not having you in any of the photos, especially the big group shot with the smoke bombs." The sheer audacity of her self-centeredness was breathtaking. My profound personal achievement, my sudden public recognition, was framed entirely through the lens of her party, her photos, her social performance. The thought that I might have had a legitimate, more significant reason for not being there, a reason that transcended her event, seemed utterly beyond her comprehension, almost an affront to her meticulously planned day. I didn't respond immediately to any of them. I needed space, time to process the sudden, seismic shift in my reality. I spent the evening celebrating quietly with my few university friends, Marcus and Sarah, sharing stories and laughter, savoring the genuine warmth of their congratulations. They didn't care about the family drama. They simply celebrated my success, understanding the years of quiet struggle that had led to this moment. Their authentic joy and pride in my accomplishment was a balm to my bruised soul, a comforting counterpoint to the performative praise from my family. The next day, my story exploded further. National news outlets picked it up, driven by the compelling narrative of the underdog, the non-traditional student, the quiet triumph over adversity. My face, once invisible, was suddenly everywhere, on morning shows, in online articles, even in snippets on the nightly news. Interview requests poured in from major networks, from prominent magazines. Feature articles were written about my arduous journey, about my unwavering determination to earn a degree despite immense financial and personal obstacles. My speech, which had resonated with so many, was dissected and praised for its raw honesty and inspiring message, described as a beacon of hope for forgotten dreamers. I found myself navigating a bewildering new world of public recognition, a far cry from the quiet, anonymous life I had always known. I decided to accept one of the national interview requests, carefully choosing a prominent morning show that focused on human interest stories and positive narratives. I saw it not as an opportunity for fleeting fame, but as a strategic platform to share my story, to inspire others who might be toiling in obscurity, struggling against similar odds, and subtly, to tell my truth, on my own terms, without direct confrontation or public accusations against my family. It was a chance to define my narrative rather than letting others define it for me. During the interview, the host, a kind, empathetic woman named Sarah Jennings, asked me about my journey, my struggles, and the unexpected scholarship. She specifically probed the challenges of being a non-traditional student, of balancing life and academic pursuits. This was my opening, a carefully considered opportunity to speak my truth. It's a unique path, indeed, I explained, my voice calm and articulate, maintaining a steady, measured tone. One that often requires immense personal sacrifice, or juggling work, sometimes 2 or 3 jobs, depending on financial need. You're managing family responsibilities, whether it's caring for children, supporting elderly parents, or simply contributing to household expenses. And then, on top of all that, you're trying to meet the rigorous demands of academia. There are no holidays, no comfortable breaks, just a relentless pursuit of that degree, often fueled by sheer stubbornness and a deep-seated belief in what you're trying to achieve. I paused, letting the weight of the description settle, and, sometimes, the biggest challenge isn't just the financial burden or the time commitment. It's feeling that your journey, your sacrifices, are truly understood and valued. When you're spending 8 years working towards a goal, often in isolation, balancing so many disparate elements, you hope that on that final day, the people who matter most will be there to witness your achievement, to share in that triumph, to see the culmination of all that silent effort. I deliberately left a subtle, poignant pause, allowing the unspoken implications of my words to hang in the air. The host, a seasoned professional, sensed the underlying tension immediately. She nodded gently, her expression shifting to one of profound understanding. "And were they there for you, Nora?" she asked, her voice soft but probing, her eyes searching mine for the truth. I took a deep breath. Oh. This was it. The moment I chose truth over polite fiction, without resorting to outright blame. "My parents," I said, my voice maintaining its calm, steady tone, devoid of any discernible anger or overt bitterness, were unfortunately unable to attend my graduation ceremony. They had a prior commitment that day, a significant family event that took precedence. I offered no further explanation, no details about Lee's gender reveal, no specifics that could be construed as direct accusation. The implication, however, was clear, and it hung in the air, weighted with unspoken regret and quiet disappointment. My words were carefully chosen, devoid of overt accusation, but powerfully suggestive, allowing the audience to draw their own conclusions based on the context of my earlier statements about the importance of family presence. The host's expression deepened, a flicker of profound understanding passing through her eyes, a silent acknowledgement of the pain behind my carefully constructed words. "That must have been incredibly difficult, Nora," she murmured, her voice filled with genuine empathy. "It was," I admitted, allowing just a hint of vulnerability to color my voice, enough to convey the depth of the personal experience without lapsing into self-pity. But, in a strange way, it underscored the very message I wanted to convey in my speech. That ultimately, this journey was my journey, it was for me, and that my worth, my achievements, are not dependent on external validation, but on my own dedication and perseverance, on my own belief in myself. It taught me that, sometimes, you have to be your own biggest cheerleader, and that the internal validation you give yourself is the most powerful kind. The interview continued for another segment, focusing on my future plans, my aspirations for the master's program, my hopes for inspiring other non-traditional students to pursue their dreams. But that subtle exchange about my family's absence, delivered with such quiet dignity, spoke volumes, resonating far more deeply than any direct complaint ever could have. It was a truth bomb, carefully placed, subtly detonated, allowing the audience to fill in the painful blanks with their own empathy. My phone, predictably, blew up again after the interview aired. This time, the messages from my parents were not of bewildered pride, but of indignant defense, tinged with genuine hurt. "Nora, why would you say that on national television? It made us sound uncaring. We told you we had a commitment. We were going to make it up to you. This is so unfair." My father's voicemail was filled with frustrated accusations, his voice tight with anger and confusion. My mother's was a flurry of hurt feelings, a wounded cry of betrayal. "You know how important family is. This was a one-time thing. Lee needed us. You're making us look bad in front of everyone." Lee's texts were even more frantic, a chaotic stream of exclamation points and emojis. "Nora, everyone's talking about it. My friends from the party are asking if there's family drama. Did you really have to say that? Now Auntie Shanti is calling Mom asking why she skipped your graduation. It's making us look bad. It was my gender reveal. You know how important that is to me." Her outrage was palpable, a desperate, self-absorbed attempt to reclaim the narrative, to reassert her own perceived importance, completely blind to the fact that her actions had created the very situation she decried. I finally called them back, my voice calm and measured, refusing to be drawn into their emotional maelstrom. "Mom, Dad," I said, when they answered, their tones defensive, almost accusatory. I simply answered a direct question honestly. I stated that you had a prior commitment, which you did. I didn't elaborate. I didn't accuse, I didn't blame. I chose my words carefully to be factual, not inflammatory. The fact that the media chose to highlight that particular aspect, or that others drew their own conclusions, is not something I control. It's a consequence of the choices that were made, by all of us. I maintained a calm, almost detached tone, refusing to be drawn into their emotional drama, denying them the satisfaction of a reactive outburst from me. "But it sounds like you're blaming us. It sounds like you're saying we abandoned you," my mother wailed, her voice rising in pitch. "I'm stating facts, Mom," I replied, my voice firm, unwavering. I worked for 8 years for that degree. I earned that scholarship through immense personal sacrifice. This was a monumental day, for me. You made a choice about where you wanted to be on that day, and I made a choice about how I would respond to that choice, and how I would celebrate my own achievement, and how I would represent my own journey. A tense, uncomfortable silence stretched on the line, heavier than any words. And my father, his voice strained, tinged with a reluctant hint of a plea, said, "But we still want to celebrate you, Nora. We can still have that dinner. We can still make it up to you. We can do something special." The offer, once so eagerly anticipated, now felt hollow, an empty gesture of appeasement, too little, too late. "It's too late for that, Dad," I said quietly, the words firm, final, closing a long, painful chapter. The moment has passed. My celebration happened, on that stage, with the university, with my professors, with my friends, with the millions of people who heard my story and understood its meaning. That was my celebration. And it was more than enough. I could hear Leah's muffled voice in the background, likely demanding the phone, frantic with her own sense of injustice, but I continued, my voice unwavering, resolute, and appreciate the thought. "But I have my master's program starting soon and my new internship. My life is moving forward in a new direction, and I need to focus on that." I hung up, a profound sense of closure washing over me, a feeling of lightness I hadn't known I was missing. The cycle of being overlooked, of seeking their approval, of living in Lee's shadow, was finally broken. I had chosen myself, and in doing so, I had not only gained a degree and a scholarship, but I had gained my voice, my autonomy, and a quiet, unshakable confidence that was entirely my own. My parents might still be trying to explain why I wasn't in the gender reveal photos, but I was already making news, writing my own headline, and stepping into a future that was undeniably, beautifully, and authentically mine. The initial shock of public recognition, while intense, slowly gave way to a profound sense of purpose. The media attention, which could have been fleeting and superficial, became a powerful platform. My inbox, once filled with work emails and bills, now overflowed with messages from countless individuals who had felt invisible, underestimated, or whose hard work had gone unacknowledged. There were stories from single mothers attending night school, from older adults returning to education after decades, from immigrants balancing multiple jobs while pursuing their dreams. Each message was a raw, honest testament to quiet perseverance, and it was humbling to realize that my personal moment of defiance had touched so many lives, resonating far beyond my own small sphere. I dedicated time each day to responding to these messages, offering words of encouragement, sharing resources, and fostering a sense of community among those who understood the unique struggles of their journey. This unexpected role as an accidental advocate for non-traditional students was profoundly empowering, giving my story a purpose far beyond personal vindication. It was about amplifying the voices of the unseen. My master's program in communications, with a specialization in public relations and social impact, began with a familiar intensity, a welcome return to the rigorous intellectual challenges that truly fueled me. I thrived in the demanding environment, immersing myself in advanced coursework and research, channeling my energy into building a tangible future. The full scholarship was a liberating gift, a weight lifted from my shoulders, allowing me to fully dedicate myself to my studies without the constant pressure of two demanding jobs. It was a luxury I had never known, a freedom that allowed my mind to truly soar, unburdened by financial anxieties, free to explore academic pursuits with an unencumbered focus. I spent hours in the university library, devouring academic texts, engaging in lively debates with my professors and peers, my mind alight with new ideas and concepts. My relationship with my family, however, remained strained, a lingering casualty of the gender reveal debacle and my subsequent public statements. My parents, still reeling from the unexpected public scrutiny and the quiet judgment from their friends and extended family, continued to express their hurt and confusion. Their calls became less frequent, then almost non-existent, the emotional chasm between us widening into a palpable silence. When we did speak, the conversations were stilted, filled with awkward pauses and a palpable tension. They would occasionally ask about my studies, but their interest felt perfunctory, their attention still fixated on the perceived injustices of their situation, on how they had been made to look bad. They seemed utterly unable to grasp the fundamental principle that my achievement was about me, a culmination of my effort, not about how it reflected on them or how it impacted Lee's social standing. The narrative they clung to was one of their own victimization, not of their misplaced priorities. Lee, ever the master of self-preservation and social manipulation, quickly adapted her public narrative. She began to subtly appropriate elements of my story, framing her own challenges as equally arduous, implying a shared struggle that simply didn't exist in reality. Her social media, once a shrine to manufactured perfection, now featured vague posts about the challenges of motherhood and the unseen sacrifices of family life. Designed to elicit sympathy and maintain her carefully curated image of a relatable, hardworking woman. She never directly referenced my success, never publicly acknowledged the scholarship or my viral speech, but her newfound focus on resilience and overcoming obstacles felt like a thinly veiled attempt to co-opt the very themes that had made my story resonate. It was a subtle, almost passive-aggressive form of competition, a continuation of the old dynamic, but this time it felt less potent, less capable of inflicting genuine pain. I had grown beyond the need for her validation, beyond the desire for her recognition. Her attempts to diminish my success by equating it with her own manufactured struggles simply highlighted the vast difference in our characters. My focus remained firmly on my studies, my research, and the new life I was building. I found a part-time internship at a prominent public relations firm, Catalyst Communications, leveraging my degree and gaining invaluable practical experience. The firm specialized in nonprofit and social advocacy campaigns, a perfect fit for my burgeoning desire to use my voice for meaningful impact. My manager, a sharp, insightful woman named Clara Rodriguez, quickly recognized my quiet determination, my keen analytical skills, and my ability to craft compelling narratives. She became another significant mentor, guiding me through the complexities of the industry, teaching me the nuances of strategic communication, and encouraging me to trust my instincts, to lean into my unique perspective. Under her guidance, I flourished, discovering a talent for impactful storytelling that went beyond personal experience. As my master's program progressed, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction, a profound fulfillment that permeated every aspect of my life. I was not just learning, I was actively applying my knowledge, making a tangible difference in the world, however small. And my voice, once silenced by family dynamics and overlooked, was now being used to amplify the voices of others, to shed light on important issues, to advocate for change, to give a platform to the marginalized. Quote, "This felt like genuine success, a purpose far more profound than any fleeting celebrity or social approval." The quiet girl who had always been content to observe was now an active participant, a force for good. Then came the second call that truly shifted my perspective, shaking me from my quiet contentment. It was from my father. His voice, usually so contained and stoic, was heavy with a raw, unfamiliar sorrow, breaking with barely suppressed emotion. "Nora!" he choked out, his voice thick with tears, barely audible. "Your mother, she's gone." It was sudden, a heart attack, very quick. The news hit me with a shocking, visceral force. Despite the distance, despite the years of emotional detachment and the unspoken grievances, the umbilical cord of maternal connection had never truly been severed. My mother, with all her flaws and her misplaced affections, the woman who had brought me into this world, was gone. A profound grief, unexpected in its intensity, washed over me, mingling with a complex array of emotions. Sorrow for her loss, regret for the unspoken words, for the love that had often felt elusive, and a quiet understanding of the complexities of our shared history. A deep, aching void opened in my chest. I booked a flight immediately, leaving my research, my burgeoning new life, to return to the place that had once been both my home and, at times, my emotional prison. The old house felt smaller, dustier, infused with the scent of illness, old memories, and unspoken anxieties. My mother's absence was a palpable void, a silence that resonated through every room. My father, a man who had always seemed invincible, was a shadow of himself, his stoicism shattered, his face etched with profound loss and a bewilderment that was heartbreaking to witness. And Leah was there too. She was outwardly solicitous, often clinging to my father, but her presence felt brittle, almost performative, her sorrow laced with a self-pity that, even in this somber context, felt strangely jarring, a desperate need for attention shining through her grief. During the wake, surrounded by distant relatives and family friends, a sea of somber faces and hushed condolences, I found myself quietly taking on many of the practical burdens. A familiar role for me. I organized medication schedules my father was too distraught to manage, fielded calls from concerned relatives, managed household affairs, and navigated the complex medical jargon with the calm precision of someone accustomed to problem solving. And I didn't seek praise, merely acted out of necessity and a quiet sense of duty, a deep-seated desire to alleviate my father's suffering. My father, overwhelmed and emotionally depleted, began to lean on me, subtly at first, then more openly. He'd ask for my advice on funeral arrangements, trust my decisions regarding family matters, and look at me with an expression that was new, almost akin to respect, a quiet acknowledgement of my competence and strength in a time of profound vulnerability. One afternoon, as my mother drifted in and out of sleep, her breathing shallow, her once vibrant spirit fading, my father sat with me in the quiet living room, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the familiar furniture. "Nora," he said, his voice low, raspy with unshed tears, "you've been incredible. I don't know what we would have done without you. You've handled everything with such grace, such strength." He paused, looking at me, his gaze clear, perhaps for the first time in years, devoid of the filter of comparison or expectation. I think we made some mistakes, didn't we? With you, with Leah. We were so caught up in appearances, in what we thought success looked like, we didn't always see what was right in front of us." The words hung in the air, a belated, unspoken apology, a profound confession of their own shortcomings. It wasn't explicit, not a direct statement of "I'm sorry for overlooking you," but it was there, in the tremor of his voice, in the raw vulnerability of his eyes. It was an acknowledgement, finally, of the imbalanced dynamic, the years of overlooked effort, the countless sacrifices. A part of me, the child who had yearned for this recognition for so long, felt a quiet ache, a bittersweet release, a wound that had finally, painfully, begun to heal. "I'll make mistakes, Dad," I said gently, my voice calm, devoid of resentment, allowing myself to be present in this moment of shared vulnerability. What matters is what we learn from them, and what we do with that learning. It was the truth, my truth, forged in the crucible of my own arduous journey, a testament to my personal growth. He nodded, a profound sigh escaping him, a heavy weight lifted from his chest. Oh, Madison Lee, he corrected himself, the slips of the tongue a sign of his distress. She's still struggling. She blames everyone but herself, says she never got a fair chance, that life isn't fair to her. Oh, he looked at me, a silent question in his eyes, a desperate hope for insight. He still didn't know, not definitively, about my role in her college rejections. But perhaps, he suspected, a subtle understanding dawning in his grief-stricken mind. I met his gaze, and for the first time, allowed a hint of the truth to glimmer in my eyes. A silent, unspoken acknowledgement of my role, of the justice that had been served, of the consequences that had unfolded. I didn't elaborate, didn't confirm or deny, but my eyes held a knowing depth. He didn't press. He simply nodded again, a new understanding dawning in his eyes, a quiet internal reckoning that spoke volumes without a single word. The moment passed, unspoken yet profoundly significant, a silent testament to the raw honesty that grief could sometimes unlock. My mother rallied, slowly, surprisingly, defying medical predictions, her illness receding into a chronic but manageable condition. The crisis, though terrifying and heartbreaking, had served as a strange catalyst, shifting the family dynamic in subtle but undeniable ways. My father's appreciation for me was palpable, a quiet, consistent warmth that was entirely new. He saw me now, truly saw me, not as a reflection of Leah, but as my own capable, compassionate self, a pillar of strength in their time of need. He started to express genuine interest in my life, my work, my passions, something he had rarely done before. As I prepared to return to my life, to my research, to my career, and to the burgeoning relationship I was cultivating, my mother called me into her room. She looked tired, but her eyes held a clarity and a quiet strength I hadn't seen in years, a newfound wisdom born from facing her own mortality. Nora, she said, her voice thin but steady, her hand reaching out to grasp mine. That diploma. That scholarship. It's truly remarkable. And that speech. It was so brave, so true. She paused, then a single tear traced a path down her cheek, a tear of genuine regret. I'm so sorry, sweetie, for everything. I should have seen you more clearly. Always. I'm so proud of the woman you've become, more proud than words can say. Explicit apology I had never expected, never dared to hope for, finally came. It was raw, honest, and filled with a profound regret that radiated from her fragile frame. In that moment, the last vestiges of the bitterness that had lingered in my heart dissolved, replaced by a wave of quiet acceptance and forgiveness. It wasn't about what I had done to Leah, it was about what I had found for myself, what I had become. And my parents, finally, truly, saw it too. I hugged her, a genuine, heartfelt embrace, my arms wrapping around her frail body. It's okay, Mom, I whispered, her familiar scent, tinged with antiseptic and old linen, filling my senses. Shh. It's okay. The words were true. Shh. It was okay. I returned to my life, to my thriving career, to the intellectual challenges that excited me, to the new connections that nourished me, feeling lighter, freer than ever before. The past was not erased, but its sharp edges had softened, its burdens lifted. I was Nora, a successful professional in public relations, a woman contributing meaningfully to the world, a daughter who had finally found a fragile peace with her past. My career flourished. I quickly moved from an intern to a full-time account manager at Catalyst Communications, specializing in crafting compelling narratives for social justice organizations and scientific research institutes. My ability to distill complex information into accessible, emotionally resonant stories became my hallmark. I led successful campaigns that raised awareness for climate change initiatives, secured funding for mental health programs, and even helped launch a national literacy campaign for underprivileged youth. My name, Nora Patel, became synonymous with strategic thinking, empathetic communication, and impactful advocacy, standing entirely on its own merit. I published articles in industry journals, spoke at national conferences, and became a respected voice in the field of public relations, all built on integrity and authentic connection. In my personal life, I found a deep, quiet connection with Dr. Kenji Tanaka, a brilliant and remarkably kind astrophysicist I had met through a mutual friend at a science communication conference. He was a man of profound intellect and gentle spirit, someone who listened with his whole being and saw me, truly saw me, for my quiet strength, my intellectual curiosity, and my subtle humor. Our relationship was built on shared values, mutual respect, and a profound understanding of each other's journeys, comfortable silences between us punctuated by laughter and meaningful conversations about the universe and human nature. We married in a small, intimate ceremony, surrounded by a handful of genuinely supportive friends and family, including my father, his eyes brimming with a quiet pride that was genuine and undisguised. He had come a long way. Aaliyah eventually found her own path, a surprisingly stable one, perhaps born from a forced encounter with genuine struggle and a lack of the constant external validation she had once received. She became a stay-at-home mother, devoting herself to her children, finding a quiet purpose in the everyday joys and challenges of motherhood. She still retained a flair for the dramatic, and a subtle need for external validation often manifested in overly curated social media posts about her children, but the sharp edge of competition between us dulled. When we occasionally met, there was a tentative truce, a recognition of our vastly different lives, and perhaps a quiet understanding of the paths we had both taken. She never explicitly acknowledged my public success, but her tone when we spoke had shifted, becoming less self-absorbed, more genuinely curious about my life. My story, the one that had gone viral on my graduation day, became a foundational part of my identity, not as a source of grievance, but as a testament to resilience, a reminder of how far I had come. It was a reminder that true value lies not in external validation or manufactured perfection, but in unwavering dedication, authentic effort, and the courage to claim your own truth, even when it means standing alone against the expectations of others. And my parents may have once tried to explain why I wasn't in the gender reveal photos, but by then, I was living a life that was undeniably mine, making headlines not with a flash of colored smoke, but with the quiet, enduring light of my own hard-won success. And in that light, I finally saw myself, clearly and brilliantly, for the very first time, a woman who had navigated adversity, found her voice, and built a life of profound purpose and genuine contentment.